Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So here's another deck profile for you guys today. This time it's on Salamangreats. Now Salamangreat just recently on the ban list basically came back to full power now that Gazelle is finally back at 3. And honestly, I think Gazelle could have came back to 3 a while ago, but I don't know. I guess they just decided to take their time on it. But yeah, Salad is definitely a great strategy. This format is a really viable rogue strategy for those who really want to pick this up. Because believe it or not, this deck is fairly budget. A lot of the stuff you need originated from a structure deck. So like, yeah, if you had like 3 of the Soul Burner structure deck, most of what you need is going to be in there. And you'll probably need some additional pieces. But overall, yeah, this deck is pretty strong. It also got some new support from a more recent set of Soul Burning Volcano, I believe was what it was. And we got cards like Salamangreat of Fire and Salamangreat Weasel, which both act as very good support cards for the main deck. Also a new Link monster, which I'll explain more about that later. But yeah, like Salamangreat is one of those decks that I've always had hope for, especially because like it's one of my favorite strategies. Like y'all know I'm a big sucker for fusion decks, with the exception of tier limits because that deck was just ridiculous. But even now, like the deck is like very much playable, even with all the hits that he received. But also some new decks have been rising. Like Unchained is like crazy good with this format. Pearly is still really strong. And now we also got a new structure deck being the Jack Atlas deck. And the Red Dragon Archfiend deck, as y'all saw from my deck list, can be pretty crazy. So, but anyway, yeah, I'm glad that, I can rebuild Salamangreats. It's probably going to be a deck I'll be playing quite a lot this format too, aside from like Branded Chimera, the Jack Atlas deck. And I might even start picking up Trap Tricks again. But yeah, like again, Salamangreat, a really fun strategy, and I definitely want to show you guys what I came up with in my build. So my main deck's 40 cards. Now mine's gonna be a little different than your typical Salad build, but for sure I'm playing 3 copies of Gazelle. This is easily one of the best cards of the entire deck because not only is it an extender, but it's a Foolish Barrel for your Salad cards. So this with Spinny, or if you already have a Spinny in hand, you basically like, yeah, got full combo right there. And like you just basically Foolish one of your spells and traps and so forth. Now, unlike most builds that are playing Salamangreat of Fire at 3, which me personally, I think is incorrect, I'm actually playing 3 copies of Flame Buffalo. Some people will say that this card's not good. No, don't listen to them. This card is crazy because like this plus a Spinny or any of one of your other graveyard pieces, yeah, Flame Buffalo, I like the fact that it just draws you cards, and it's probably your best normal summon. Because like you don't want to play too many normal summons in this deck, you really don't. So like, yeah, Flame Buffalo is going to be your absolute best one. It honestly should have been a Salamangreat monster, but it's just not. But it is fire though, so hey, that's pretty good. And plus, this card also plays around Joel and Lockbird, so like you link this off for a Balinks, Chain will resolve. You get not only get your field spell, but you also get to draw 2 cards, which is great. And honestly, like most of the time, you're going to be sending cards from your deck to the graveyard anyway, so like, yeah, like you don't typically lose to draw. And also the cool thing about one of the spell cards, which I'll elaborate more, also plays around Joel. But moving on though, 3 copies of Spinny, definitely one of your best, discard fodder pieces, especially like, because this deck is basically rank 3 turbo. You definitely want to try and get to your Mirage Stallion as quickly as possible, so that's why Gazelle and Spinny are just so good with each other. And yeah, like, nothing more needs to be said. Playing 2 Foxy, not a card you typically normal summon. It can if you really have to, but most of the time, I just use it for its graveyard effect, not only because it's a good extender, but also it pops spells and traps, as long as they're face up on the field, of course. But yeah, Foxy is not too bad. And then for the one-ofs, 1 Jack Jaguar. Now that Gazelle's back at 3, you don't need to play this at multiple copies anymore. And I'm not on Desires either, so like, yeah, 1 Jaguar is more than enough. 1 Falco, just recycles your back row, but also the fact that it's a level 4. Same with Jack Jaguar, just helps you go into Abyss Dweller, which, spoilers, I am running in this build. But yeah, it's not too bad. One of my new favorite ones is Salamangreat Weasel. I've been thinking about running this at 2 now, but one cool thing about Salamangreat Weasel is that this basically shuts down a lot of cards. Okay, so what this card reads is that if you have 2 or more Salamangreat monsters in your graveyard, you can special summon this card from your hand. If a Salamangreat Ritual, Fusion, Synchro, Xyz, or Link monster is special summoned to your field while this card is in your graveyard, you can target 1 other Salamangreat monster in your graveyard, place this card to the bottom of your deck, and then special summon the other monster to your opponent's side of the field, and then you get to draw 1 card. Now, this is important because it basically enables you to play around impermanence, because impermanence requires your opponent not to have any cards on their field. It plays around evenly matched, so like if you have a fully established board, they can't just go into their battle phase and end the battle phase. No, it's not going to work. And funny enough, this actually shuts down Kashtira because like they have to control no monsters to special summon that Fenrir, and yeah, like that basically just puts a huge damper on their play. Funny enough, this actually works against the against the Jack Atlas deck, sort of, because like if they open up with a Crimson Res in there, they can't even bring that out. So yeah, like any card that requires you to have no cards on field to activate, yeah, Weasel basically just shuts that off. Lightning Storm's another great example. And to round up our Salamangreat lineup, only one copy of Salamangreat Fire. So a friend of mine and I were talking about this card now that Gazelle's at 3, and I asked him, like, is this card even worth playing anymore? Or at least, you know, like, is this something that Salad players even need? And the reason we discussed this is because he and I are both veteran Salad players. And we kind of got to talking, like, I think 3 Salamangreat Fire is just wrong. Like, in fact, I think he told me he's not going to be playing this card anymore. I'm still thinking 1 is just fine because you can bring it off of Mirage Dalio. But the main reason why I think 1 is more than enough is simply because you can't really, there are going to be times you can't really afford the Fire Lock. And like Heat Soul requires Cyberse monsters of different attributes to make, and Heat Soul is just an incredibly good card to help you draw more cards. So like that's generally our theory behind it. So, and honestly, I gotta agree. Now there are going to be times where like this card's graveyard effect will come in handy because like it plays around like the Fenrir tech, basically. Like if I were to declare an attack against the Fenrir, they use their effect to banish. I can just use Salamangreat Fire, pop my own monster, and yeah, just kind of like force out that effect. So like, yeah, it can come in clutch, but mostly like the ability to search out a level 4 Salad monster is always going to be nice. But yeah, I think 1 is more than enough. To round up the Cyberse lineup, you know, I'm running just 2 copies of Parallel Exceed. They're just great extenders to go into like Abyss Dweller mainly, and that's the only reason I'm playing these. I don't want to run 3 because like 3 is just one too many. Because like if you brick with it, yeah, the whole combo is just dead. It's just dead. For hand traps, playing 3 copies of Ash. Ash is really good this format. 3 DD Crow. This card is incredibly good this format. It's strong against a lot of decks right now. Strong against Unchained. Strong against Branded, funny enough. As long as you banish the right monsters. Because like if you're up against the Branded Chimera, you want to banish their illusion monsters, because like those are going to be the ones that basically disrupt you. So that's the whole thing about it. Let's see. It's strong against the Jack Atlas deck. Like any deck that relies heavily on their graveyard effects, it's really strong. Actually, it's strong against tier limits because, like, yeah, you don't want their Sheeran, Hofness, or Murley to kick off. So, like, yeah, DD Crow, you get rid of them, they're gone for good, so long as they don't have any of their shufflers back. 2 Nib. I'm 50-50 with this card, but I still like it because there are still a lot of combo heavy decks, and if there's some decks that just lose this card, that's really good. I was actually thinking about main decking Droll and Lockbird instead, but Droll and Lockbird can be a bit inconsistent right now because there's so many decks right now that can play around it. But, when it comes up, it comes up. 3 Imperm, just a standard disruption piece. And that's pretty much it for the hand traps. Alright, now moving on to my spells. Playing 3 copies of Circle, it's Rhoda. It also gives you protection for your Link monsters. 2 Silent Mining. I think 3 is too much. Simply because, like, it can be a -1 if your opponent just ashes this card, so that's the whole thing about it. And plus, if you're a first turn player and, this doesn't get resolved, yeah, you basically just lost 2 cards out of your hand, and playing a full combo is just, like, can be a little awkward at times. 1 Will of the Salamangreat. This might come up to 2 because it's just a really good card. 1 Sanctuary. Playing 2 copies of Triple T. I love Triple T so much because, like, if my opponent, like, activates any hand trap against me and I can still go full combo, that's fine. And one thing about Triple T is that it enables me to look at my opponent's hand. If they happen to play Nibiru in their main, I can just swipe that Nibiru out of their hand. Or if I just need to, like, see what combo pieces they have, that's even better. And at times, I do get the draw 2 effect as well. Like, it really depends on how my hand is looking. 1 Called By. And, of course, 1 of each of the Salad Traps. Pretty standard stuff. For the extra deck, now my extra deck, I had to dabble quite a bit with this one, but again, like, I definitely like the results that it came out with. Started off with 3 copies of Balinks. It's Balinks. It gets you your field spell, and not too bad overall. 3 Sunlight Wolf, probably one of your most important pieces, because not only does it bring back one of your Salad monsters to your hand, or actually it brings back any fire monster, so basically Ash becomes recurable, but it also recurs your spells and traps if you link with itself. Playing 2 copies of the new Salamangreat Raging Phoenix. Basically, it's a searcher, but also like the fact that it's big too. So But if a face-up fire monster you control is destroyed by battle or card effect while this card is in your graveyard, you can target one of those monsters, especially summon this card, and if you do, this card gains attack equal to that monster's attack. So yeah, it's self-recurrable, and yeah, it just a good way just to beat over big monsters. I'm playing one copy of Decode Talker Heat Soul. If you notice, I'm not playing Heat Leo in this deck. I kind of was thinking about playing it, and it might come up. But I like Decode Talker Heat Soul simply because, you know, it draws you cards. I was also playing Hita. Hita's just really good for the mirror match, but actually, funny enough, this is pretty solid against anyone who's teching Kashtira Riceheart, because that one's a fire monster. So if I can take that monster for myself, instant link material for a Transcode Talker, and then from there I can just go into an Axis Code Talker, which, speaking of which, I am running that line: one Splash Mage, one Transcode, and one Axis Code. I'm not playing Update Jammer. It's good, but it's not like needed, honestly. At least not so much anymore, because, you know, we are playing like other new support cards. I was playing Lingerebo for a while, but again, I kind of came to realize that, you know what, with Salamangreat Weasel, I don't really have to worry about like trap cards as much anymore, simply because like the whole reason for Lingerebo was just to dodge Imperm or evenly match, but Weasel basically just shuts all that off anyway. So yeah, I felt like Lingerebo just isn't needed as much anymore. And of course, for my Xyz lineup, one Mirage Stalio, one Abyss Dweller, because like this is pretty strong against Unchained, but again, like any graveyard heavies deck, like Tearlament as well, like yeah, Abyss Dweller it's just a really nasty card against them. All right, and now for the side deck. Now the side deck, once again, I had to dabble with it, but I think I finally came up with what I felt like gave me the best results. 3 Drone Lockbird. Again, these might move to the main deck in case if I don't like the Nibiru, but it all depends on like just how much more this format shapes up. 3 Book of Moons, you know, just a really good flexible tech option. I was main decking it as well, but I decided to put it on the side to make room for DD Crows. 2 Lightning Storm, 2 Cosmic, and Harpy's Feather Desert. This is primarily for Labyrinth, because like Labyrinth is just pretty annoying in this format, and yeah. But also not too bad against like Dragon Link, because like you don't want their cards like Branded Beast or Branded Regain to kick off, or even Jack Atlas, because like if they're on the Bestial package, yeah, it's a good way just to deal with the all those cards. I didn't know what else to put in here, so I decided to tech in Change of Heart. This is also not too bad against the Unchained, but it's also just a good bait card. Like if anyone with Baron DeFleur, for example, is out, if I need to force out that Omni Negate, yeah, Change of Heart is really good for that reason, because like it's just free basically. And then finally, 3 copies of Gozen Match. This is just for like any deck that runs like multiple different attributes, like Branded, Tier Limit, Kashtira. Unchained actually runs a lot of different attributes. So yeah, again, it's just a pretty flexible floodgate right now. So I feel like, yeah, Gozen Match was definitely an amazing tech to try. And of course, if you want to play like a more controlled build, you know, main deck Gozen Match if you want. But yeah, that's all I got. So hope you guys enjoyed this. And of course, if this video hits 1,000 views, you know, I'll definitely bring out a combo video for you guys. But anyway, until next time, guys, see you around.